Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. NDSU and Illinois State matching up today in Missouri Valley Football Conference action. Welcoming you inside the Fargo Dome now, Kyle Emanuel, Devin Fry, I'm Beth Houle. Welcome into another week of Bison football. Guys, we're back at the Dome. Feels kind of good to be back home. It's certainly nice to have you guys back in town.
Yeah, I can say, I was on the road with the team a little bit, so it's nice to just have the same schedule. And I know for the players, it's the same way. You have to leave class a little bit early. Everything's just different when you're on the road. Now, NDSU has had, going back to even all the way back to my days, they have had a really good record when they do play on the road. But I think this team is excited to be back home.
I'm just excited to be back in the Fargo Dome because it's more exciting than the studio that we had to say when they were on the road. So that's the main reason for me.
Watching Devin create our own atmosphere in the studio was something else. Well,
it's not
guys,
the same.
NDSU picked up a much-needed win last week to be able to bounce back after taking that loss at Southern Illinois. A much-needed win. Definitely one they should have won. This week shaking out to be another one of those that they should win as well.
Yeah, and we thought the same thing against Southern.
That's true.
They probably should win this game. I think last week the big talk was all how are they going to react? We think this is going to be a focused team. Will we see it out on the field? And that's exactly what we got. Now, as a young team, can you deal with that success? You had success week one. You didn't deal with it great in week two. Now we're coming back off the same thing. You're coming back off the road in a game you should win. I will say this about Illinois State. They are a talented group. They've lost a lot of guys from their last game, but they're always a talented group. They're going to play hard defensively. Don't have a guy named James Robinson, which we all might remember from last year. He was about their only offense, and I think it might be similar to that this year as well. But they can't take Illinois State lightly, obviously.
I'm pretty confident knowing the coaching staff as well as we do that NDSU is not going to be overconfident heading into this game. Obviously, they had a chip on their shoulder last week. They have to try to carry that same momentum coming back home after a win. I'm sure the coaching staff didn't let them settle down at all. So hopefully that same attitude.
And you heard that in their interviews this week. They still had kind of that same edge as last week, which was really good to hear again.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, there's three more people on our team. Yes, I said three more. Welcoming Brian Shawn back to the crew today, back to the Fargo Dome. We'll toss it down now to Ryan Gellner and the rest of the guys.
Yeah, downfield lever, Lee Timmerman, Ryan Gellner, and Brian Shawn. 12 feet to your left. Welcome back, Brian Shawn.
It's good to be back. It's good to see your ugly mugs again. It's been a while.
We've missed that sense of humor.
Shot across the bow.
Well,
right
I've had to watch it on television, and now I see it in real life, and it just makes it that much prettier in real life.
On behalf of all of us, Brian, we are thrilled you are back and wish you nothing but the best of health the rest of the way.
It's good to be back. I don't like watching, so I like being here, and it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you guys for all your support, everybody. It's been very overwhelming for me and my family, and all that being said, it's been a heck of a journey and a heck of a road. There's still a little bit of a ways to go, but I'm glad to be back in a routine doing what I love to do, and that's being here on Saturdays or Sundays, whatever day we're here.
We are glad to have you back. The task at hand, guys, North Dakota State, I think, Lee, still trying to figure themselves out.
They certainly are. It's a Bison team that has not lit up the offensive scoreboard. For the last decade, we've been able to watch NDSU just kind of pile up the points as the other teams have struggled to score. This is an Illinois State team that has really struggled to score as well. So I mean, who knows? We don't. That's the beauty of live sports is we don't know what's going to happen, but we don't think this is going to be a high-scoring affair today.
Brian, both quarterbacks kind of in the same situation. Team chemistry, things like that, trying to get things going on both sides of the ball today.
And really, I think for Bryce Jefferson, the young man from Illinois State, they had that great start. They were up 17-0 in the first quarter against South Dakota, and then all of a sudden they turned it over on 5 straight possessions and had 7 turnovers in the game. Last week against UNI, they couldn't do anything offensively. They only had 9 first downs. And I think that's the same thing for Zeb Noland. These quarterbacks just don't feel comfortable quite yet. But once you get into a little bit of a rhythm, and I think most importantly, if you can run the football for both teams, that will make the life of the quarterback significantly easier here today.
We will continue to break this football game from downstairs up in the booth and also where you're at, guys. It is going to be a fun one from the Fargo Dome. Beth, back to you.
Thanks so much, guys. Well, coming up, like Ryan said, we've got plenty more to break down in this one, including a special visitor joining us here on set. We've got Dillon Radunz coming up next, going to talk about his NFL journey as he prepares for the NFL Draft Pro Day yesterday. We'll hear from Dillon, maybe bring back some memories for Kyle Emanuel on his journey to the draft as well. Join us. We're here for the next hour, taking you up to kickoff with the Bison and the Redbirds. It's the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Welcome back into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Welcoming you in as the Bison prepare to take on Illinois State in another Missouri Valley Football Conference matchup. We're going to take a break from talking about game prep for this one to talk a little bit about preparation of another kind. The NFL draft is coming up in late April. April 29th, I believe, is day one for the NFL draft this year. Dylan Radins joining us on set. NFL
Hopeful?
Is that the proper term?
Yeah.
I'm just so confident in it. Let's put it that way. Dylan Radins, former offensive lineman for the Bison football team. Left tackle, I believe you said it's in your blood to be a left tackle.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, and being a left tackle, I think it's in the blood. I think even anybody in the league who's played left tackle, it's just there's something about it. The getting used to it, the confidence you have at being at that position, just the pride you have in it too, just protecting the quarterback's blind side. Once you do it for a while, it's in your blood. So. And
you had the opportunity to show off a little bit of that pride, of that hard work yesterday in the pro day here at NDSU. What was it like to be back in the Dome, to be able to participate in that pro day?
Yeah, it was awesome. Be back home. It's a home away from home all the time. Just being able to compete in the Fargo Dome. This truly was my last time showing out in the Fargo Dome, doing an athletic performance there. So it was awesome. I'm glad we were able to do it in the Fargo Dome. I know the pro days are kind of normally in the bubble that we have over there, but yeah, like I said, it was awesome to show out and help represent NDSU in a way.
Dylan, you're going through this experience, and obviously I went through a similar one, but this class is going through something that no one else has seen before. Can you just kind of talk generally about your experience so far? You play the one game in the fall, and then you move on. So what's it been like? I know you said talk about where you were training and just everything that's kind of gone into this entire process.
Yeah, to begin with, it was a roller coaster of emotions. We thought our season was over, ended up not being over. We got an opportunity to compete one last time as a team, as that 2020 team, and yeah, it was awesome to be able to do that. And yeah, just through all the emotions and through coaches and family, they helped me to make the decision, and I was able to come to that determination, come to that decision to go out and train in California. I was working with Joe Staley out there, a huge NFL vet, very experienced guy. So I was able to just enhance my game that way and train that way, and ultimately it was a good decision for me, and I just hope I can represent NDSU well.
So we talked about left tackle, obviously. Yeah. Has any team talked to you about being able to move positions, switch positions? Obviously, we saw, I like to compare Billy Turner. He played left tackle, and he played it beautifully at NDSU. He gets to the NFL. Now he's played everywhere. Is that something you want to do, you think you can do, or people have talked to you about?
Yeah, people have talked to me about it. Obviously, if I can help it, I'm going to be a true left tackle. I think that's where I'm going to be best at. Sure. But obviously, if things don't go as planned, then yeah, I'm a versatile player. Played left guard at the Senior Bowl a little bit, and then guys want to see me play right side a little bit, so I'll do some training in that, and we'll just see where I can plug and play. Ultimately, I'm going to be a team guy, so I'll be like Billy. I'll be like wherever you need me to play, I'll be there. So
I think we'd all be okay if you turned out down the path that Billy has, doing well with the Green Bay Packers these days. An interesting year with COVID and everything. No NFL Combine. You get the honor of that invite.
Yep.
But you don't get to be there. Tell us a little bit about taking advantage of some of these opportunities and what these meetings are like. Nobody's able to fly you out, right?
No, nobody's able to fly us out. So that's where the Senior Bowl became a huge opportunity. I think that's where a lot of guys started accepting invites that might have been on the fringe of not going. Once they figured out there wasn't a combine, then the Senior Bowl is really the only.
When did you guys find out there was no combine?
It was just before the Senior Bowl. I'd say it's 2 weeks before the Senior Bowl. And then so we realized that's the only time really you're going to have face-to-face meetings with GMs and scouts. Other than that, you pro day a little bit, the handshake here and there, but otherwise it's all going to be over Zoom. So just having that advantage of the Senior Bowl is huge. And then obviously you want to be able to go to the combine, just the experience. A lot of guys say it's like the best worst 3 days of your life, just because the medical I
agree.
Yes. So
I can validate that point for you, sir.
Yes, exactly. So you're tired. They keep you up at night, poking and prod you, just grilling you with questions. But ultimately, the pro day was good. They still sent us combine gear, so you still have that memorabilia.
That's
but
cool.
Yes.
That's a really good part of
Yes,
it. Have you
super good.
gotten any of those weird? I remember you guys got like really weird questions.
That's what I was just going to ask you, because that was one of the things I got asked a lot. I was like, what's the weirdest question? I got one that was like, it was like, okay, what's the similarities between a boat and a car, or a golf club and a, like just
Yeah.
random things. And I think it was a Cincinnati Bengals. Did you have any experience like that?
So right now, I haven't yet. It's all, they're taking it all like film study right now. I'm sure I will down the line when they actually start doing all those Zoom meetings when the head coaches are in there and stuff. But yeah, like you said, I've heard some weird ones. Like there was some guy got asked like, how many golf balls fit inside of a school bus, stuff like that. And they just want to see how you think, see how you answer questions, stuff like that. But yeah, there's some interesting stories there.
What did he say? I would say a lot.
I know, it's like
I'm short and to the point, right?
I think regardless, if you don't get rattled, you're probably
Yes.
good. I think
Yes.
that's what they're looking for. I didn't know. I mean,
Exactly.
some of the stuff I thought was obvious. It was like, okay, a boat and a car, the modes of transportation, things like that. But
Yeah.
some of the stuff I didn't know. So watch out for the Bengals. Although it is a different coaching staff, so you might be
Sure,
okay.
yeah.
It's just remarkable, though, everything, all these little details that go in to you guys getting a shot in the NFL.
Yep.
All these little things that you had to go through. It's unlike any other job interview.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They call it the ultimate job interview, but I don't know any other job interview where they make you run out on a stage in your underwear and then you have a bunch of coaches staring at you and they
And
weigh
then they
you.
film
They
it
weigh
for the
you
rest
in.
of eternity.
Yeah, it's on
Yes.
national television. Your weight is out there for everyone to see. I don't know if anyone else has job interviews like that.
I did
but
not have that.
No,
my
you
God.
didn't. Oh,
No, they
interesting.
gave me the microphone without that.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
fair enough. Yeah, it's
What's
it's a
been the
fun
most
one.
fun part for you, though, through this whole process?
Just learning from all the guys and being around the guys who've been in the league so long. So I've been fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to work with Coach Paul Alexander. He was with the Bengals for 23 years. I've worked with Joe Staley. I got to work out. I did one workout with Andrew Whitworth. He's on the Rams. Brian O'Neill, right tackle for the Vikings. Garrett Bowles, left tackle for the Broncos. He just signed a huge deal. So working with all those guys, picking their brains, seeing what the lifestyle's like, and just their wisdom and just their ability to play the game is huge, and just to learn from them has been awesome.
I want to bring up, if we can, switch this video to your bench press.
Yep.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. I leaned over the railing yesterday to ask Dylan, what are we warming up at? How many reps do you think you're going to get? You told me 22.
Yep.
You got 24.
Yep.
But what was that moment like? I mean, to be warming up, I heard you say, I feel bad. I'm keeping everybody waiting.
Yes.
As you went through it.
Yeah, it was super weird because everybody, we have our own warm up, and I'm sure everybody has a different warm up going into it. And the trainers I worked with, they had me going through, I'd say, a pretty extensive and long warm up, but it worked for me. I'd say I got 2 more reps than I was kind of shooting for, so that was good. But yeah, you're just like warming up, and everybody's staring at you like they're like, "Come on, let's get this going. We're waiting on you." And in a way, it's kind of like, "Come on, we're here to say Trey Lance throw a little bit." I got to throw some shade his way. We always joked about that, but yeah, no, it was just those guys. It was just weird warming up that way, and then obviously I'm okay with performing in front of them, but just normally when you're warming up, there's not 30 people just in a circle that close staring at you, so it's a little strange, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, NFL Network did not show you
Nope.
bench press. they thought Trey's throwing was a little bit more important, I guess. Can you dive in real quick just into more of your training? We saw the bench press.
Yeah.
I know that was kind of unique for me, but what were your days like quickly while you were in Irvine?
Yeah, so when I was in Irvine, you'd wake up at 5:30, you'd go do some rehab rollout right before breakfast, eat some breakfast. You'd go to the field, you'd start doing combine drill training, so we'd work on our 40, short shuttle, L cone. Then right after that, you go into position work. Joe Staley would show up, he'd get his bags, he'd show us some things that he'd want us to work on for that day. After that, go watch film and eat lunch. Then after that, lift about 1:30, and then you get done about 2:30, do some more rehab, and then relax from 4:30 on. Just go hit the hot tub, stuff like that. Enjoy the weather in California. So pretty full days, but they weren't too hard.
I heard you. I heard you, obviously.
Yeah.
You mentioned Trey.
Yep.
Being at Pro Day. He was also there at your Pro Day, is how we'll phrase it here today. Do you get asked about him a lot?
Yeah, especially him being a young guy. There's a lot of question marks obviously there for that. So I'm just there to reassure guys. Like he came in, obviously, yes, he was a young guy, but he learned very quickly, and I tell him all the time, that's what he's going to do. He's going to learn quickly. He's very adaptable. He's a great leader that way, and he's obviously got the talent. He's got the arm. He's got the athleticism. The biggest question, like I said, is he's a young guy. Not even 21 or just turned 21, however it is. But yeah, so just reassuring guys that he's going to be able to learn quickly because I've seen him do it, and I know he's going to be able to do it. So that's just the biggest question teams always ask me. So
I know the truck is trying to get me to pitch this to break, but I got one more thing I really want to ask you. It's my show. It's my time. Dylan, NDSU has sent so many guys to the pros now.
Yep.
Standing next to one of them here.
Yep.
Plenty of offensive linemen ahead of you. Do you hear about NDSU a lot? Do they ask a lot about NDSU? And how have the Bison prepared you the best possible for this moment?
For sure. So, yeah, I've been asked all the time, especially the culture up here. Just being able to send a lot of guys, and just the winning percentage of this program is huge. So every single coach asks me about that, just the culture. What do you guys rep up there? It's always servant leadership, stuff like that. So they'll always ask about the culture. And, yeah, just to be a part of that long line of guys who have had the opportunity to go on to the next level is huge. Just continuing to better the program. Hopefully I'll be drafted in 1 or 2 rounds. So then I'll be the highest offensive lineman drafted out of NDSU, and then hopefully somebody will beat me in that, and they'll get drafted even higher than me. So just always trying to be the betterment of the program, being a servant leader, trying to just be prideful of Bison pride and what that means to us. So.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Rooting for you
Best of luck, Dylan.
for the NFL draft. Dylan Radins, keep an eye out for him, guys. The buzz only continuing to build here as we ramp up towards that 2021 NFL draft. We'll be back with more. I'm kidding. It's not my show at all. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. The Redbirds are in the building, although they're walking into the building here. A look at Illinois State coming to town. A little sparse the Redbirds are this week.
Yeah, a little bit. They brought a lot of fans, though, from what I've noticed. There's a lot of Redbird fans around here.
Parents are passionate.
They're coming in with as many players as they can and a good number of fans.
Illinois State here to take on the Bison, struggling so far this year kind of in that offensive production. We're going to catch up with Ryan Gellner and the voice of the Redbirds here next.
Where does NDSU go at ESPN? Dick Ludke is the play-by-play voice for Illinois State. And Dick, kind of like North Dakota State, Illinois State trying to figure out their quarterback situation as well.
Well, Bryce Jefferson came on at the end of last year, was strong in the playoffs, played okay here against obviously an outstanding defense. But yeah, he's still learning. Lots of turnovers, but he is capable of doing some wonderful things.
Illinois State's biggest asset so far has been their defense. No question about it. Really good.
No question about it. And it's a little surprising, Ryan, because they lost so many people from the team that played here in the playoffs a year ago in December. But still, that's the strength of this team. It amazes me, and I think it's amazed Brock Spack to some degree how strong the defense still is.
I think everybody in the league, and quite possibly everybody in the country, has been trying to put their finger on. It's obviously weird to be playing football, but the effects seem to be bigger and bigger down the line. Your spin on that?
Well, I love the fact that they're playing, but it is, you wonder whether the coaches and the players are fully buying into this being a season. It's just so different, and hopefully it gets back to near normal anyway by next fall.
Let's go back to Bryce Jefferson, because obviously focus is on quarterback. North Dakota State, Zeb Nolan. Bryce Jefferson is a kid that is an absolute playmaker. We know that. Yeah. So what's been holding him back?
I think just decision making. I mean, he's a very intelligent guy, but he just hasn't had the experience that he needs. You need to be aggressive offensively, but you need to know when to turn off the aggression button when turnovers are likely. And I don't think he fully understands that yet, but he has the talent, and he's very mobile, and so he's a threat to run the football as well as pass it. And so it'll be an interesting journey for him as we see him develop as the quarterback.
Running quarterbacks, as you know, have at times given the Bison fits, so we'll see what happens today. Dick, I appreciate the time. Have a wonderful call.
Good to talk to you, Ryan. You too.
All right, thank you so much, guys. An interesting comment there that really stuck out to me, that he's not quite sure everybody is taking it as a real season this year.
Well, that's kind of the approach that's been, nationwide to the spring season happening, is people aren't sure how to approach this. And the fact that after the summer, we got to turn around and have another fall season. It's just creating a very interesting environment.
It's exhausting to think about. So I imagine as you get going and you maybe have a couple of bumps or bruises along the way, that it would be really easy to kind of check out of this more so than any other season, especially with that extra year of eligibility provided to everybody.
Exactly. As a player, though, you're going to play your best no matter what season you're in. But like you said, that thought is going to creep in once you start. A football season is incredibly hard to get through. When you're going through 2 in 365 days, that's going to be an even more intense situation.
Yeah, that's daunting to think of. I mean, you think about the NFL complaining about preseason games.
Well, I understand that. I don't want preseason games either as a fan.
Well, as a fan, there you go. Let's take a look at our QB comparison here, comparing Bryce Jefferson to Zeb Noland. Both of these guys off to kind of a rocky start here.
Bryce Jefferson he's an interesting case too, because of the season total 350 passing yards, 60 of those were from a week ago. So it's really either hit or miss. That week 1 he had a really good day. Week 2, not quite as much. So it's going to be interesting to see which one the Bison get today.
Well, in the turnovers, I think to have 4 interceptions, he had 2 fumbles, all of that in one game alone. To feel that, you talk about it so often, especially for a young guy, to have that confidence rocked, you've got to think that after a while you start to hear footsteps.
Exactly, and that 123 rushing yards, that's a scary factor for sure. But how much of that is those footsteps, like you mentioned? He just scrambles when he needs to. It's when you have a dual threat quarterback like that, it could kind of bite you, because he'll just start running in situations where it's really not necessary. He'll get scared by any kind of pressure and just start running around, and it really disrupts offensive line play.
Well, let's go back to Zeb's numbers here, looking at his QB comparison. Zeb's still kind of trying to get the train rolling here, I feel like. Trying to find that rhythm and that level of comfortability.
Well, and we've seen different levels of what he's been able to do. That long pass to Braylon Henderson last week, those are the kind of highlight plays that we can expect
But those are
from
the
him.
only things, creating those passing yards.
Exactly.
Those 368, that's a Hail Mary, which I know it wasn't
kind
a
of
full
a Hail Mary. Yeah.
And then, Braylon Henderson's touchdown there last week. So some of the numbers look really, really great. Some of them continue to create question. They don't tell the whole story.
Exactly.
I feel like these are 2 quarterbacks that very much so don't tell the whole story.
And look at the rushing game of the Bison. When you're playing with those kind of running backs, you don't have to throw for more than 100 passing yards to win games. And Zeb understands that. Zeb knows that. He's just going to fit into the system. It's going to be interesting to see when he has to become that quarterback who has to start slinging it, where he goes from there.
I want to see a few more completions, though. I want to see some of that small games. I need to see it. I need the confidence.
Get the confidence up.
We've got plenty more to come on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. For now, we're going to toss it back down to the field to learn a little bit about how it's done.
Yeah, Beth, this week we are talking about a couple of tackles. You just got done with a fantastic interview for NFL hopeful Dylan Radins, who used to be left tackle at North Dakota State. Now, the Bison have moved things around. They moved their left tackle to right tackle to left tackle. Cordell Volson and Cody Mauch switching spots. How it's done this week, Kyle, is about moving positions, but moving specifically left side to right side. It's not easy.
Yeah, Ryan, it's more so, like you said, moving the sides is almost harder than moving the position itself. Because if you could go from left tackle to left guard, at least everything stays the same. Now, you probably heard me and Lee talk about a little bit about this. I think a couple broadcasts ago, we talked about Cody Mauch and how he has to move, but specifically Cordell as well. They're trying to strengthen up the certain side of the line, and so that's why they're moving them. But the comparison that Lee used, and I'm going to steal it from him, is trying to go from right-handed to left-handed, because you got to think about the feet. Now you're planting off of a different foot, and not only your feet, but you also have to think about your hands. Now, which hand you like to punch with. Everything becomes backwards, and I think one of the advantages though NDSU has in doing that. Cody Mauch last year, he played the heavy tight end when they came in with the ogre package, I believe they called it. So he has some experience switching hands and things like that, but it's still not an easy thing to do.
In 30 seconds, you did it as well defensively, right to left.
Yep.
Again, not easy.
No, it was the exact same thing for me. I always played right, and it started that way. Coulter Boyer always played left, so I started always playing right whenever they switch things. Now, I always like to use my inside hand on my rushes. Now, I know it sounds so little, but just using a different hand, planting off a different foot, it makes things completely backwards. It was almost as hard as moving from defensive end to linebacker.
It's the stuff you don't expect to be hard that we get to bring through your eyes. So I appreciate the time, Kyle. When we come back, we've got much more to do. We're getting closer to kickoff. North Dakota State and the winless Redbirds from North Dakota State University. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. Wasting no time here getting into our Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine injury report. We now go down to the field where Ryan Gellner and Dr. Bruce Pyatt are standing by.
Dr. Bruce Pyatt is back with us this week, and Dr. Pyatt, we're going to talk a little bit about ankle injuries because that is a common injury, maybe one of the most common injuries we see during the football season.
Yeah, it's clearly one of the most common injuries we see in all of sports, but we definitely see it here on the football field. The most common one that you see is the inversion injury where you kind of roll your ankle, but a lot of times you also hear about this high ankle sprain, which is where the foot kind of gets caught and the body gets rotated over the ankle then.
In my day, they taped, which they continue to tape now, but I remember back in the day having those white leather ankle sleeves or boots, whatever you might call, they laced up. Today, technology has advanced us a little bit. Show us what players are dealing with these days.
So in some regards, things haven't changed that much. This brace here is very similar to what you would have worn. It's something that fits over the ankle, has laces on it, so you can tighten it up to the individual, and then it has straps that you can pull up and around in kind of a figure of 8 position that will give you a little bit more support side to side for what we call that inversion injury where you're going to roll the ankle. But if you have an athlete who's got even a more significant injury, you may be able to now give them more support in something like this, which is an active ankle brace. And you can see that's much more rigid. So from that side-to-side inversion injury, it's going to really prevent that from rolling over.
This first one that you have out front, this is more of a preventive, or I should say after the injury, wearing this one much more preventive.
Exactly. This brace is more called a Sweeto type brace that you can pick up in any of the sporting goods stores even, and that brace is definitely more something you're going to use to be preventive of ankle injuries. And it's really hard to change the thinking of athletes, but when you look at it, everybody likes to have their ankle tape, feels really good and solid when that's put on. But the studies clearly show us once you start to sweat, there's really no difference in the support that you get from taping versus this type of a lace-up type brace. They're just as effective in preventing injuries.
Good stuff again this week. Glad to have you back, Doc, and we'll do it again. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And right into our Sanford Health injury report. Hunter Luebke with that shoulder. The fullback remains out for NDSU. Jake Kubas and Zach Willis close to returning. They are both questionable. I know Willis is dressed for this game. We'll see if he plays. And Dawson Weber still on the shelf. He is marked as out for this football game. One more on the injury report, and this is good news. Brian Sean today, he is active in the broadcast. Welcome back, B. Sean. Let's move into our keys to the football game. And our keys to the football game are brought to you by Dakota Magic and Casino. And the first one, Kyle, is third and manageable. North Dakota State needs to manage first, second, but today it's all about third down. You got to stay on the field.
Right, and how often have we heard Coach Tyler Roll talk about being efficient and staying on the field and doing well on first and second down so you can be good on third down. Look, this offense is not built for 3rd and 10s, and no, not many offenses are, not only in college football but in the NFL as well. They need to do well on first and second down to stay on the field, and that's what that formula is for NDSU. Offense stays on the field, defense gets off the field.
The Redbird defense is the real deal. They allow just 85 yards rushing. North Dakota State going to have to get it done more than just on the ground. Number 2, Lee and Brian, is keep it simple. Efficiency, we say, equals execution. Lee, what does that mean?
Well, the one thing that, it depends on which side of the ball you're talking about. If you're talking about the offensive side and then specifically the quarterback, to be efficient is a lot more than how many passes did you complete. It's did you get the ball in the right spot at the right time. For example, Christian Watson is a guy that you want to catch the ball when he is heading downfield, full head of steam. He's got terrific speed. And same thing on a little bit of an out. If you're hitting Kobe Johnson in the flat, you don't want him going down by his knee to pick up the football. You want him to catch it out in front of him when he's going up the field. So in a coach's eye, it's not so much what the numbers say, but what they're seeing in terms of where the ball is coming out of a quarterback's hand.
Brian, it's all about keeping it simple for NDSU.
I think it is keeping it simple, and so much of that, too, guys, is production and consistent production on first and second down to stay out of 3rd and 7+. Neither one of these quarterbacks are going to be successful today if they are operating out of 3rd and 7+. And NDSU's been in that position way too many times already in this young season, and that is the big reason why NDSU is only 34% on 3rd down. You think about the Bison, they are typically 52, 54% on 3rd down because they're usually in 3rd and 3. So keeping it simple is, let's do what we do well. Let's fire off the ball as an offensive line. I know that's Tyler Roll's been a big thing. And let's get ourselves into 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s. And then we have some option routes in the receiving game. We have some things we can also do in the quarterback, throw it short game, and even run the football.
Ryan, Brian talked about being only 34%, but we should say up to 34%, which means it got better last week than it was before.
Our third key to the football game probably sounds simpler than it actually is. We'll talk to Kyle about this. I want to start with you, Lodley, is find the quarterback. Bryce Jefferson drops back to pass, and then all of a sudden, he's not a passer anymore.
No, his 26 rushing attempts, of course, you include the scrambles in that. David Braun said they went back throughout this course of this season so far and looked, in 27 times he dropped back to pass on 3rd and medium or long. 13 of those times he scrambled, so almost 50% of the time. And when you're watching today, keep in mind that Bryce Jefferson usually scrambles to the outside, not to the inside. So very important for defensive ends, the position that Kyle played, to make sure that you stay on the upfield side, and Jefferson likes to go to his left more than his right, which is also a little odd.
Yeah, that's really weird for a right-handed quarterback to scramble more to their left, and that's something I think NDSU can take advantage of that because, again, this Redbird offense really struggled with turnovers in the opening game. 4 picks, 3 times they had the ball on the ground, and the big reason why Illinois State is 0-2 is because they're -6 in the turnover battle. Turnovers, and I know that's been a focus too of David Braun. We got to create momentum on our side of the football for our football team by turning over the other team. We saw that with John Jones' recovery last week at Missouri State. An early turnover here could be huge.
Oh, that was a great coming off the interception. That next play with the forced fumble, Jazeer Cox got in there. Jones jumps on top of it. Probably the play of that game, and it happened early.
You played the position defensive end. These are the quarterbacks that you lose sleep over.
Yeah, these are the quarterbacks where a coach comes in on Monday and says, all right, guys, we got to tone it down a little bit with our pass rush lanes. You know, especially as a defensive end, maybe you have to be more of a contain rusher, or when you counter, now those defensive tackles inside, they have to be ready to cover. Essentially, you want to get, it's kind of simple, but it's not. You want to get push up the middle from the defensive tackles. You want the guys on the edge to be on the edge and keep contained, but you also can't just be running by, just flybys and go completely around. Now you give the quarterback a lane. It's all about finding lanes. It doesn't matter who does it, but guys have to cover for each other in order to minimize the quarterback's escapability.
Might be the biggest key to this football game. Much more to do. We need to talk to the head coach. We'll do that in just a little bit. This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison pregame show. Fargo Dome starting to fill up. Bison Redbirds 22 minutes from now right here on this very same network. Welcome back inside the Fargo Dome. North Dakota State and Illinois State yet to come. When special teams leads off this segment, you know it was probably a pretty fun week for North Dakota State University. This is Herdline News, and senior punter Garrett Wagner, oh, what a week the kicker had. He was named the Stats Performance FCS National Special Teams Player of the Week after averaging 52 yards on 5 punts with a career-long 67-yarder and 2 inside the 20 in last week's win at Missouri State. What a week the young man had. He also hit punts of 54 and 59 yards, and we're not done yet. Wagner ran a fake punt 23 yards for a first down, and that set up NDSU's first score of the game. He was also the Missouri Valley Special Teams Award winner, Player of the Week. Wagner ranks second in the FCS this week, averaging 45 5.7 yards per punt. Today inside the Fargo Dome is the annual Trees Bowl at North Dakota State. It is the 30th Trees Bowl. It's sponsored by North Dakota's Forest Service. The Bison are 26-3 during past Trees Bowls, including 11 straight wins. The event, it dates back to 1990. Back to the task at hand. James Robinson is no longer a Redbird. The current Jacksonville Jaguar was in the running back for the past couple of seasons. This year, he was in the running for NFL's Rookie of the Year. While Robinson is gone, the Bison still have lots to do on defense today. The focus of today's game, defense on both sides of the ball. Which players, which team plays better on defense, might just win this football game. According to head coach Matt Entz, the Bison, they're up to the task. Coach, coming off 7 sacks and a shutout, your defense seems to really be setting the tone for this team.
Well, we had a nice game, a great game plan last week. We need to continue to play at that high level with that sense of urgency, with that energy. Different opponent this week, so a different set of challenges, like where we're at right now, but we got to go out and perform.
Offensively, of course, you took a step forward last week. You want to see progression again today, I would assume.
Well, that's what it's all about, trying to incremental gains every day. And if we can put a whole bunch of those stacked on top of one another, we have an opportunity to continue to get better each and every week. And that's the challenge I laid out this morning to our football team is we don't have to be a finished product today. We just need to continue to get better and continue to lean on the things that have gotten us here.
On the flip side of the field, Illinois State comes in with, so far, a pretty stout defense.
Oh, Coach Spack does a tremendous job over there with defensively. A year ago, a little over a year ago in the playoffs, they gave us fits. And we won 9-3. They played great red zone defense. They're going to bring some pressure. They're going to try to get after you and get after their quarterback. I think a year ago, they led the country in sacks in FCS with like 52 or mid-50s. So something we're fully aware of, and we know it's going to be a long day, and 4 quarters of football is going to be necessary.
They've been really good on the back end. We talked about the front side, but the back end of their defense has been really good this year.
They have been. They got good athletes. The kids understand their system. They're a quarters team. They get to some single high off their pressure, and I don't think they ask them to do a lot. What they do really well.
Finally, Matt, you're back in front of, although limited, you're back in front of the home crowd. Playing back in the Fargo Dome, always good for your team.
Oh, it is. Our kids are excited about it already, and you could tell the anticipation last evening when we kind of had our final walkthrough in the Dome, leading into this morning with our pregame meal. Just the ability to stay in their own bed, that comfortable feeling that they have leading into game time. I'm excited, and we know our crowd's going to be involved.
Good luck. We'll see you at halftime.
Hey, you bet.
Back inside the Fargo Dome, where fans getting ready to enjoy a little popcorn, a couple of Bison hats, gear. As the kids say, this place will be lit 20-some minutes from right now. It is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison pregame show. It'll continue on. North Dakota State, Illinois State, coming up next.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. North Dakota State, Illinois State coming up here in under 10 minutes here on the Coors Light countdown clock. There you go, 8:52 until we get things rolling here between the Birds and the Bison. Brian Shawn, Lee Timmerman back with you, and we will bring in Kyle Emanuel here for our Bobcat heavy lifting report. And Spencer Wagee, a young man that had himself a game last Saturday out in Missouri, pretty much unblockable by the Bears offensive line and had himself 3 sacks. And we bring in another defensive end who I believe had a few sacks in the game in the past. Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And I think Spencer Wagee, I think he jumped out to me last week, and that was why I wanted to pick him this week. Obviously, defense is going to be a big part of this game on both sides of the ball, but I thought Spencer last week, he was unblockable. He had 3 sacks. He had a sack fumble. I thought he could have had more. They virtually couldn't touch the guy. And this is what I think the NDSU needs from this guy. He's the biggest defensive end I think we've had here, but he moves like he's still 240. He's just been incredible this year. And I always say, I feel like I've said it almost every game this year so far, I feel like NDSU has an advantage at the defensive line position usually against the opponent's offensive line, and I think that's going to have to take place again here today. Now, in saying that, Illinois State does have a really good left tackle, Drew Himmelman. I'm not sure how much Wagee will line up against him. Last week they would have been on opposite sides. I think Spencer moves around a little bit more than I did back when I was playing. However, Drew Himmelman, All-American, that'll be a good matchup to watch today as NDSU takes on the Redbirds.
But the Redbirds' offensive line has been the same 5 guys, but now they're in the position that they want them in. There was a thumb injury to their center, who's now back at center, so everybody has gotten back to where they want to be. But Kyle, we watched last week, and the coaching staff feels this week the same type of defensive pressure up the middle, not necessarily at the tackles, but inside of where Himmelman and those guys are, will be the most successful approach again this week. And that's just because you line up at defensive end doesn't mean you're going to rush on the outside all the time too, because the Bison do a lot of different things in that regard, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked to David Braun earlier on in the season. He loves his defensive ends. They have depth there all over the field. And they can bring in I think we used to call it a NASCAR package. I'm not sure what they call it now, but they're going to bring 4 defensive ends, sometimes 3 defensive ends, leave Lane Tucker on the field, and they can do all kinds of twists, and they're going to get their best guys against maybe the weaker guys. So maybe if Himmelman's the guy that you don't want to go against, you start doing twists, you bring the defensive tackle upfield, bring Wagee or whoever else at defensive end, Tony Pierce around, get them matched up on a guard. And especially against Bryce Jefferson, a guy who likes to run, if you are going to rush 4, maybe if you're playing man, you don't have zone eyes behind you and you don't want to keep him in the pocket, you're exactly right, Lee. That push up front is going to be huge.
And just to reinforce your pick of Wagee too, Spencer is also leading the Missouri Valley Football Conference right now in tackles for loss, so he has been very good.
6 minutes to go on the Coors Light countdown clock, and one area that we may see an additional defensive lineman at times today, a little bit of a bear front, which is 5 down defensive linemen. David Braun has sprinkled that in from time to time. Kyle, how does that change things for the offensive line? Their heads can be spinning and eyes moving a lot of different ways when you bring in 5 instead of just 4.
Yeah, well, obviously as an offensive line, the biggest thing for you is you want to see where the defensive line is going to line up. And when they show something completely different that you're not used to, that can just throw them off. As an offensive line, you need to all be on the same page. You throw a wrinkle in there, maybe something they're not used to. And I know NDSU did that a little bit with the Wildcat, and they, against Southern Illinois, had success with it. We'll see if they can have success with it again here today.
All right, thanks so much, Kyle. About 5 minutes to go now on the Coors Light countdown clock, as the Bison will make their way out of the tunnel here at home for the 2nd time this spring, 3rd time overall, if you count the unique fall game against Central Arkansas. And it does matter.
You have to count it because we've said it before. The calendar says 2021, but this is the 2020 football season.
We had talked about it a little bit earlier, LT, but the importance of this game for Illinois State coming in at 0-2, really can't afford to go 0-3 with some of the gauntlet games they still have on the schedule and hope to be in the postseason.
Yeah, the Redbirds are ranked 22nd right now. That's a ranking on reputation, not on what we have seen so far on the football field. But yeah, that's a team in desperate need of a win. I don't know if they can get it today.
It's going to be tough against North Dakota State. Looking to make it 31 straight wins here at the Fargo Dome, the longest running streak in Division I. And the Bison will make their way to the field in front of their hometown fans in just a moment. Out house we are used to, but for the folks that are here, they will try to give as much support to the hometown team that is still looking to pick up that 3rd win of the season before hosting North Dakota coming up next Saturday.
They will be as loud as they can for the ones that are here as the Bison try to pick up the home victory today.
Well, stay with us here on the KBOI KFYR Bison Television Network. The Coors Light countdown clock approaching that 2.5-minute mark before we get things started between the Redbirds and the Bison. Number 5 against number 22. Kickoff is coming up next. Stay with us.
Welcome back into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. Beth Houle, Devin Fry here to wrap up the show. Devin, final thoughts?
We're back in the Fargo Dome. It feels great to be back. I'm sure the Bison are excited to be back in their home arena as well, in front of their fans, and Bison Nation has come out strong today.
I really want to see them take this next step. I really want to see them push themselves to get a really good, sound win here at home, especially before North Dakota roll in likely 4-0 comes in next week. That'll do it for us guys down here on the field. We'll toss it up to the booth.